I'm Maria Menounos, and you're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
What's up, and welcome to the Vagrant Queen After Show. We're talking episode 3, Nobody's Queen, and we have the queen herself in the house, showrunner Jem Garrard. Welcome, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me. Super excited to be here.
I first want to start off real quick before we get into that. We also have our other awesome host, James. Say hello.
Hello to my Vagrant Queen fans out there. How the heck are ya?
And we have a live chat going. So if you're joining us live, join in the chat, have your questions for Jem, and we're going to talk all things Vagrant Queen. So Jem, right here at the top, let's quickly explain to viewers, what is a showrunner? I think it's a term people are getting a little more used to with more genre shows and conventions. But what does a showrunner do?
Essentially that they run the show. They keep the show running. And so that involves everything. Most importantly, your job is story first. So you're in charge of all the scripts going out, editing all of those scripts, making sure that, you know, if there are any changes or any tweaks that happen along the way, that it's all working for that larger arc, and that every character's, you're following through with every character's journey. And then, you know, it's 1,000 decisions a day, from costumes to effects to locations. But mostly you know, you got to focus on story. Every decision that's made comes down to that.
So you're the captain of the ship.
That's it. That's a good way to describe it. Yep.
Nice. And then how did you get involved with this property? What made you go, I want to work on Vagrant Queen?
Well, I was a fan of Max Visaggio before this. I love comic books, a big comic book reader. And, you know, I loved a lot of her earlier work, Kim and Kim, Quantum Teens. And I just finished a project with SyFy and Blue Ice called Killer High, which was a super fun horror comedy. And we were looking for a new project together and looking at what's out there and looking at what options. And Vagrant Queen was fairly new, and we all responded really well to it. It was a super fun space adventure that we hadn't seen done before in that way. We thought it would adapt really well, and I asked if I would write the pilot, which I did, and then it sort of just snowballed from there once that pilot was done. Yeah.
Nice. We talked a little bit about inspiration and style of the show, and yes, it is based on a visual medium, a comic book, so you have reference. But what are some of the shows or movies that inspired your look for this show?
I think when you're creating something like this, and, you know, from the beginning, we wanted a very fun, bright, colorful world. And so I think naturally references like Guardians and Ragnarok came up, Fifth Element, Firefly. A lot of those references, you know, we would throw out in the room because we wanted a colorful show. So those were certainly influences, and also picked up well on that kind of fun, irreverent tone that we wanted to go for. You know, the show is very irreverent in that way, but also has a lot of heart. So, you know, wanted to make sure we got that balance.
Oh, for sure. And go ahead, James.
So Jem, I have a question for you actually. So if you guys have any questions, as Kari said, definitely let us know in the comment section. I'm reading one here that actually ties into the answer you just gave for you, Jem. Jolly Jolly Her wants to know, was there any inspiration from Mass Effect, the game? She kind of feels like there was some influence on that as she was watching the show. Did you get any influence from the game Mass Effect? I don't know how much of a gamer you are, but any thoughts on that?
I do love gaming. That one I'm not too familiar with, but it's funny that you mention it because our script coordinator in the room is a big fan, Michael.
Oh, cool.
So shout out to Michael. and would often bring that up and reference that with certain things. So we did have someone in the room who was a big fan.
Okay, good, great.
Very cool. Well, speaking of fun and heart and kind of the almost silly nature of the show, this episode definitely had that. James, what did you think of this episode?
You know, this one for me, I think was better than the first and the second. I feel like every episode we watch, the team gets bigger, the story gets bigger. You get more connected to these characters. So I have to say, in this episode in particular, I think one of the last scenes, we see almost everyone we've met in the first two episodes on the ship. I thought that was such a cool, like, juxtaposition of all the characters we've met. I don't know if that's going to be the whole team moving forward. I am indifferent about if it is or isn't, but I definitely love that all the troops were rallied together and it felt like we had a goal now. Like, I know I said that for last episode, but I don't know. I feel like it's far more of a rallying of the troops, if you will, for this episode. So I definitely appreciated that from this episode 3.
Cool. Yeah, I think that was that was very much the plan when we were working on the outline for the whole series. You know, you've got a lot of setup to do in your pilot. So we wanted to kind of make sure we were setting up these characters, but not in a way that we were overloading the audience with all this backstory straight up front, you know? And so there were talks about whether, when should we bring in this backstory of Aleta? When should we see her on the throne? It's called Vagrant Queen. But it was important for me not to show that too early on. First of all, I wanted us to get to know these characters, Aleta, Isaac, and AMA. And the point of episode 2 was to solidify them as a trio, as a team, before we then said, okay, cool, and here's Aleta's story. And here's all these people from her past that you're going to get to know now. And so 3 was exciting because, we knew enough about our leads that we could enjoy this next adventure that they were on. It had more weight to it because of that.
And then another character that gets more part of the team, we got Winnie Bot.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I was so shocked. I was shocked.
Mini Winnie.
Yeah,
Mini
Winnie.
Nice.
I like that nickname. We talked to Tim last week, Jem, about how we may have been onto something with Winnie Bot moving forward from episode 2 and on. And I definitely got the sense that Winnie Bot may be an integral part of the team. As she came and kind of saved the day towards the end. Did you have any inspiration from like Star Wars or anything like that in terms of having like a smaller, like mechanical sidekick along the journey?
Well, I think like if you're gonna bring a robot in a show, it's impossible not to think about Star Wars. Their list of droids are so varied and fun and awesome. But I mean, I'm a huge robot nerd anyway. I write them a lot into my work. And it was important for me to at least somehow introduce a robot in the show. At first, it wasn't, she wasn't intended to be part of the team, but in the writers' room, it just progressed that way because I'm so sorry because of what happened to Nim.
Oh no, my heart was broken.
Yeah.
I know, and I'm gonna break more hearts right now by saying that the earlier drafts, he didn't die.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah, but he didn't go off on the adventure with them. And then what happened was that Lazaro in episode 2 was torturing another loyalist, an unknown, for information. And we were just really feeling like it wasn't hitting hard enough. We weren't getting a sense that this is a villain. This is a guy to fear, and this is a really unhinged person. And so that's why we were like, okay, this scene, this needs to be Nim. And then we had this other robot character that we were working on, and it made sense that they found her on Winibot when they were figuring out how to be a team, and then she needed point. She needed a role, and so she sort of very much is the character of the ship. The Winnipeg itself had always felt like a character, but we needed sort of something a little bit a kind of a different version of that, something else that we can sort of anthropomorphize. And and Winnie Bot was born, and you'll certainly see more of her.
Excellent.
In terms of the design, it was really because we needed something simple. And so when I pitched it, I was like, look, I know we don't have a lot of cash, but she could be super simple. She can be this kind of this box that moves, because I wanted to do as much practically as possible. And I just have to say, like, hands up to my amazing props team, because I gave them this idea and they just went above and beyond, and they came back with this design, and she actually moved on set. She was remote control.
Cool.
You could stand there talking to her and she'd move and light up. It was just it was amazing.
So is her speediness the element for comedy, and then is it also for she can't be perfect, because then otherwise she would solve all the problems right away?
Exactly, she can't be perfect, and she's going to be, like I said, she's really sort of represents the ship, and so that's where she spends most of, no spoiler, that's where she will spend most of her time. And so the one time that she does come out, she is just this sort of walking, talking, sassy box, and so she can't have speed on her side as well. And when we were writing it, that scene, I remember, when myself, Mika, and Mariko were in the room, that scene where she gets to the log just made us cry with laughter every time.
That would be a problem for her. Can't quite hop over it. But speaking of another cool location, I really dug the gas station. Something so familiar and normal, but make it spacey.
Yeah, that was something that we wanted to do a lot when we were putting it together, is take things that we can relate to easily. We are in another galaxy with all these other aliens, and we wanted to make sure that we weren't creating a show where we were throwing out a bunch of random words and made up things, and it was always something that we could relate to. And so the gas station came out because of that. Like, this is essentially a road trip through space, so what happens on those? You hit up a gas station, and that idea sparked a lot of things in the show, and ended up we ended up writing the parking tickets thing for Isaac. How does he always lose his ship? Well, because he gets parking tickets. So that was another thing that we were thought, okay, what's another thing that we can all relate to and put in this galaxy?
Another thing I realized in this episode that was incredibly relatable was when Winnie Bot couldn't perform a task because her firmware wasn't up to date. Yeah. I thought that was genius. It's like such a approachable, natural thing for all of us to try to update our phones like 3:00 in the morning so we can sleep through it. But we never do it, of course. So I thought that was another incredibly relatable topic that you guys threw in there that I was like, oh yeah, that could absolutely happen. So kudos to you guys for that.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, that was fun. And then, it meant we get another MA moment. The one time she procrastinates and it backfires, so she's not going to do that again.
So from the gas station, we end up via the Loyalists, the shootout and kidnapping at their stronghold, which I think you were saying how that was like a really cool set and you got lost in it. You wrote on Twitter.
It was huge. I did get lost very easily. It was beautiful. It was built for another show, and the owners had kept it up, and we came in and kind of built some extensions on it, and it was just kind of a beautiful mix of that old look with a colorful sci-fi twist as well, but it was a beautiful set. And then we saw so many places actually in this episode. I went when it was fun to watch it back on Friday and just go, wow, there's just remember all these places that we visited for it, and Cape Town offered so much variety in its landscape.
Yeah. So James, what did you think of all that info we get with the Loyalists? We learn they're trying to mount a war. They have a lot of forces. We get Hath back. I was very happy about that. I want to like him as a character, but we get that moment at the end where they're all kind of secretly talking, and then they want the where to go? Write it down.
The Steerzad.
Thank you. I was like, the device for mind control back, and I was like, no. So James, what do you think of that whole breakdown?
I thought that was great. Again, I think it gives it just creates layers to the story. It gives the characters a motive, and then it creates dynamic within the characters too. Because like looking at Hath and the little we've known from him thus far, you see a different side of him, a different side of all of them, really. That's a bit more sinister. That's like, they have a motive. There's something that they want to go after. So that was cool to finally get some clarification on that note for me.
Cool. Yeah, that's exactly what we wanted to do with it. In this, we've known from the pilot that she's going to go and rescue her mom. And that's all that she wants. She's not looking to take up the throne again. She's not looking to join this war. She's on a very personal journey. And the Loyalists as well, while they want Zebulon back as well, there's also another motive for this journey. And you'll see that unfold more in the next 2 episodes.
Nice, because I was having my suspicions about the Loyalists early on. If I wanted them to be good, which I'm not necessarily saying they're bad yet, but they do have hidden motives.
They do, and we wanted to do that with the Loyalists and the Republic. Lazaro and the admirals. It was sort of while these guys are very much kind of villains, we didn't want to say though that that means the monarchy are necessarily the good guys. There's always kind of those hidden motives with each.
Well, I was going to say, thank you. Speaking of that, we get our flashback. It's 15 years ago, and it's it's a coronation ceremony. It looks like they're doing the crowning. Cool.
Yeah.
And they want to change where resources are going from the one of the other kingdoms, I guess, or planets.
Another local planet that is sort of under the rule of Areopa.
But I love the Queen's line where I'm like, the kingdom is more important than any single part of it, and that change has consequences. I was like, there it is. James, what do you think of that flashback?
So that flashback to me opened up our eyes a lot about Zebulon as a character, in my opinion. I think that in the first 2 episodes, we really got a sense that she was this, benevolent queen, and she cared about everyone. But I don't know, in this episode, in that scene in particular, I got a sense that there is perhaps a power struggle, this Queen Zebulon wants, first off, why is she not queen if she's Aleta's mother? That was a question that I think they kind of danced around a little bit in this episode. But in that scene in particular, it really made me think that Zebulon may not be the queen that we think she is. I think that she may have another motive. She may want to grasp power from Aleta, even though it was bestowed to her. I got that sense at the end of the telling of the ancient story that talks about why Aleta is who she is. So yeah, I definitely think that Queen Zebulon is one to look out for. I'm not certain that she is this wonderful person that we think she is, because we have so little information. But the more and more information we get about her, I kind of am going more on the left. I'm like, I don't know how I feel about you, Mom. So that's my 2 cents on it.
And that's great. I love that you feel that way, because there are a lot of layers there, and I won't talk too much on it, because certainly we do learn a lot more about Zebulon and her motives. But the most important thing we were trying to set up in this episode was that she was a child queen. She's a kid. Of course, she's not going to be able to rule, this planet and their neighboring sort of star colonies. And so there's got to be someone, there is that voice in her ear. There is someone that's obviously kind of helping her rule and advising her. And so, Aleda's rule was really kind of her mother's rule. And so Aleta now, as an adult, is kind of figuring out, actually, what do I believe in? What are my morals and values? And who is she without her mother?
Yeah, I felt also with these flashbacks, we're getting a little more sense of why Aleta doesn't want to rule when she learns some more intricate details of what ruling entails. And I think that's what's starting that change, because then also she has that moment with her mom, and when she learns about the Star's dad, and that what's easy is not always right. It's like,
I'm so glad that you picked up on that, and I'd be so excited to talk to you guys again later on near the sort of second half of the series, where you see some more flashbacks of Zebulon and young Aleta. Very excited for you guys to watch those.
Well, the other one, we will need to put that one on the books. The other person that I was excited though to learn about were with the flashback of the revolt going on, that Lazaro is part of the pretty much the starving revolt, and it doesn't quite justify his obsession, but it does give us a glimpse of like, well, if he was part of a group of people that were suffering, of course you would be against the monarchy. So you're like, all right, give him a little more depth there. I dig it.
Yeah, absolutely. And we do find out there is an episode that does concentrate on Lazaro's story a little bit more. But this episode, we wanted to show, he was part of that revolt. He was one of the first to storm the palace. And then in the present day scenes you saw with him in episode 2, R.I.P. Nim, he was talking about how, he feels like he's a mockery to the Republic and the admirals, and that he feels like he should have that higher seat now. He was part of that revolution. But, he's sort of been blamed for the Queen getting away and the Queen still being alive, and so he's sort of left as this commander who has obviously these bigger goals and this sort of bigger ideology, and he feels I think he feels kind of wronged right now, and this is sort of added over the years, over 15 years, to his obsession to kill her. He thinks every day that she's alive is kind of stopping him from being where he should be.
Getting their flashback and everything. We also have the Loyalists. When we get that, I like that Aleta gets her time with them, so then we get time for Amae and Isaac to go on a little adventure. Which also talks about relationships, and I really like their moment. They get the comedic bits too, and with the rodents, which was fun. When they have their relationship chat about being faithful, and Amae's like, I just love people. Which was cute. And I like that they had time to essentially open up to each other and talk about relationships. James, what do you think of that kind of moment for those two characters to connect?
Okay, first off, I want to give a slow clap for Amae, because she is getting mad play. She is flirting with everybody. I'm like, yo, Amae, I learned a thing or three from you. God damn.
Yeah.
In terms, so we did get a little bit of a tease from this last week. Tim told us that there was going to be I think adventure with Amae and Isaac, and I'm so happy that we got to see that unfold. One thing I picked up from that whole interaction, I think it was just as Amae and Isaac are approaching like the rodent area, there's a moment where Amae is talking about her past with Chaz and how there was a revolt and a lot of people in her family were killed. We may talk about this later, but I got a sense that Isaac had something to do with that. I'm sure you won't answer the question, so totally understandable. But I got a sense that Isaac has a deeper connection to Amae than we've seen thus far. So that's one thing I really gauged from the scene, and then in addition to Amae. flirting with everybody. Which I love.
Yeah. Well, what we wanted to do with that scene is just, show that they've both experienced profound loss.
Okay.
Amae does have an interesting backstory, and she sort of touched lightly on this in episode 2, but that she's sort of experienced loss and pain and war, and with this moment between her and Isaac, we sort of wanted to show that she knows what that feels like, and she has her own heavy past. They all do, and so what we really like to kind of do with them all is show really how different people manage their trauma and their grief. And Amae sort of turned that into just being this complete people person. She loves connection. She's the most emotionally intelligent of the group, and we can see how trauma's handled differently with Isaac and Aleta. Aleta sort of puts up this wall, is the opposite, in fact. She puts up a wall, and Isaac sort of he's a joker and a drinker, and that's how he manages. And so they all have, they're all sort of managing these difficult pasts differently. But the good thing with Amae is that she's the character that can really bring that out of them, because Isaac and Aleta weren't going to have these heart-to-hearts when they're friends. It takes Amae to come in and pull that out and allow them to kind of open up and be vulnerable.
Love the multiple high fives. That was cute.
Yeah.
It was
Learning
super
Earth
fun.
stuff.
It's super fun. That was a little improv from them, actually. We wrote the scene that Isaac goes for a high five, and Amae's like, what is that? And so on set, the two of them just threw out that multiple high five thing, and obviously we had to keep it in. The fun that you see them having on screen, that's actually how Alex and Tim are in real life.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
One scene, one small part from that scene I thought was hilarious was the reiteration of MacGyver, Mick Gaybar. I thought that was so funny. I was like, yo, that's great. So little gems like that I think are awesome and so funny.
I love the response to that joke too, because we enjoyed throwing it in there, but wasn't expecting such the response it got. I think t-shirts have even been made of it now.
Wow.
So I promise, getting a season 2 would be an absolute dream, and I promise to put a McGay bar in it.
Yay.
Good, awesome.
Yeah, if you want to see that shirt, Jem retweeted it, so check out her Twitter. It's a really good one. Jordan made that, and I love the design. It's super fun. I love it. I was gonna say another heart to heart. We get Aleta and Amae, and they kind of have that fireside chat of what you can change. Yeah. And I'm glad you mentioned how Aleta has walls, because Amae's putting out there essentially of like, if you want to get together, we can get together. There's not really any walls there, but Aleta almost feels sad that Amae goes and hooks up with somebody else. It's like, but girl, you were like, nope, I am not opening up at all.
Yeah. And Aleta's, she's not going to. And I think even now, even with Amae being part of the team, there's a certain kind of distance that she would keep as well. She's still that warm, approachable character with Aleta, but she's now part of the team, so there's a certain amount of trepidation there from her as well, of not wanting to ruin this thing they've got, this team. And so we've from the pilot, we've sort of built on that spark of that first sort of meet cute, and it continues to do so, and I'm excited for fans to see how that relationship unfolds.
I like how it's unfolding. It's a much more natural approach, and you can see some chemistry, but they're both a little cautious maybe, because they're still getting to know each other, so it's fair. Actually, total left turn here of a relationship of a callback of a friend favor. What do we think of Rekor and Clive? Because Aleta goes, oh, I got a favor. I know how we can sneak into the territory without making a big scene. I thought that was super funny and showed how more down to earth Not really Earth, I guess, but you know how grounded Aleta is, because everyone else was so like, oh, it's gross. They're like plugging their nose, but she's like, yeah, whatever. This is my friend.
Yeah, and that's just a nod to, you know, a little bit of her past. She's essentially been sort of surviving on her own as a scavenger for years, even before she met Isaac. And so, you know, she knows people. You know, she knew people in Zyja, and we're sort of just every now and then want to plant that she's got people out there that she knows. And obviously it's a variety of aliens, and some, you know, are kind of, you know, some criminals and or similar. And that was kind of, he's a very fun character, and you'll see a lot more of him in episode 4.
Awesome.
But it was sort of another way to show how different she is compared to these loyalists. You know, these loyalists, the last time they saw her, she was their queen, and now she's this scavenger hanging out with, like, you know, these criminals and people that sneak people through the border and stuff. And it was just a way to sort of show how, you know, how much she's changed from this person they thought they knew.
Yeah. Now, Jem, we're almost towards the end of our time with you. Is there anything you'd like to add that we, on episode 3, the show thus far, what people can look forward to?
I think we've touched upon it all. You mentioned something at the beginning that was interesting, and that, you know, we end 3 sort of seeing all these people together that we've slowly been introducing over the 3 episodes. And, you know, moving forward, you get to see a lot more of that group. But like you said, everyone's got their own motivations. And there's so many layers going on, and those are going to unfold a lot in the mid-season that's coming up. And then there's a lot of those layers that sort of are revealed, and then in episode 8 we'll give you a super fun you know, the movie Clue.
Yes.
We do an homage to the Clue, the 1985 Clue movie. Super fun, and we wanted to throw that in there. It's one of our favorite episodes before we give you a very epic finale.
Cool.
Yeah.
Ooh, I look forward to it. That's an excellent movie, and it's an excellent show. Thank you so much for joining us, Jem, and we're looking forward to seeing
inviting
more
me.
of these episodes.
Absolutely.
This was really fun, and let's do this again later when you see some of those flashbacks that are going to be answering some of the questions you just had.
Awesome.
Guys, James and I are going to keep chatting, but thank you again, Jem, and everybody go follow her. And where can people follow you on Twitter?
Jemga, Jemga.
Awesome. Cool.
All
Thank
right.
you.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Jem.
All right, James, any other final thoughts from you on this episode?
I think this episode was great. I love to kind of piggyback from what Jem just mentioned. I love the fact that the team is expanding. And I love how we're seeing these intra-relational relations among the characters, because again, it gives them a bit more dynamic, gives them a bit more layers. So I'm looking forward to that moving forward, and that was kind of one of my biggest takeaway from this current episode as well.
Yeah, I'm liking where it's going. I definitely think, if anybody's not clear, I do think Aleta and Amae have some kind of tension going there. Good tension, not bad. But I think it is that one of those, Amae is just so open, and if she's not getting it back, she's not going to push.
Yeah.
And Aleta is so closed. She's not giving enough for Amae, which I appreciate, because it isn't a character that's like, oh, hey, I'm going to bother you and like get in your face about it. It's like, no, she's like, if you say no, she's like, all right, moving on.
She's good at that. She's moving on left, right, and center.
Yeah, she's like, I'm not going to wait. She'll be like, I'll be available later if you. I thought this one was fun. Something I'm kind of curious about, though. I like the rodents. I thought they were kind of comedic, scary. I'm hoping we see different style of how aliens happen. if only because they were pretty similar to our previous monster things.
The
that I
like
was
long arms kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am definitely all for practical effects. 100%. I love what they're doing with it, but I'd say maybe that's my only little bit of a complaint, that I was just like, they look like, theme park monsters to me, which I totally dig. Don't get me wrong.
They're scary. Don't get us wrong.
I hope the next one they can do something less humanoid. So,
I agree.
like the other characters where it's the mask, oh my gosh, they go amazing, 100% is like so cool. So I'm hoping later we see different stuff like that. There we go. Oh, Jolly in the chat says Aleta will definitely have to make the first move. Yes. Definitely.
Oh, for sure, Jolly. For sure.
And Leanie says in the live chat, OMG, no way, Clue, eek. I agree. I'm super excited. I love the movie.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that. Any other thoughts on this episode, James? I know I kind of asked that, but any other things we didn't cover before we get into our special segment and predictions?
No, I think we covered it. I'm happy to have had Jenna on. Jem on. I don't know why I said Jenna. Jem on, because she really did kind of close the circle for us in a bit, because I had ideas. It was cool to get her 2 cents on there. So I have to say the biggest takeaway is having her on to talk about this episode.
Oh yeah, absolutely. 100%. Thanks again, Jem. All the behind the scenes info and just along the way was great. And she was just so willing to add the info to what we were talking about, which I loved. All right. So we are going to get into our special segment and then end with our predictions. So our special segment, James, is called
Winnie Who? Winnie What? So as you guys know, with Winnie Who, Winnie What, we break down some of these costumes because like literally Vagrant Queen has some of the best costuming I've seen in the TV show. So it's oftentimes overlooked the actor who's behind the costume. So this week I wanted to focus on a character that I thought was comedically on point. His name is Trevor McCoy, but he goes by Trev.
We did not talk to him. Trev.
He goes by Trev. So Trev is
slime.
This slimy, comedic, like squirting things out of his neck.
Oh, that was so gross.
Wasn't it gross? I kind of feel like Lazaro didn't quite react as I expected him to, but that's a whole other topic. So,
yeah, that's true.
Trev is played by actor Matsi Takatka. I'm probably saying your name wrong. I apologize if you're watching us, and I hope that you are. Matsi was born in Germany. He relocated to Johannesburg in 1994. He is a vocally trained actor and singer. He actually moved here to LA to study acting. He studied the Meisner technique, which I'm sure many of us know about. He moved back to South Africa in 2015, and he's best known for his role in The Red Sea Diving Resort. It came out in 2019. It's currently on Netflix as well, and it stars Chris Evans. So that is our Winnie Who, Winnie What of the week.
Yeah, I thought he did great. He was had a good comedic and sinister about him, because we see him earlier with Aleta and he goes, oh, I recognize her, and I like that it's callback that of course he's selling the information, or tries to Lazaro, which does not go as planned. So I thought it was nice and kind of comedic.
I love too in the very beginning when he boards the ship and he puts out his hand and he's like, oh, actually never mind, we'll just pound it. You're like, ain't nobody touching your slimy self. I thought that was
we
great.
got Renji in the chat says a humanoid blobfish, and it's like, yes.
Okay.
That's a good description.
That's spot on. That's spot on.
It was a weird like fish thing, and they did a good job. I like that they made it interesting, and Clive was also a good like slimy other person on that planet. So I dug that for sure.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into some predictions.
And now, your
all right, so
predictions.
I liked hearing some of Jem's insight into what we're going to be seeing. I do think we're going to see a little bit more gray from everybody, because it is not black and white, and not everybody's nobody's perfect. But I'm liking these a little more backstory, almost justifications of why people are doing certain things, their motives. Of course, I don't side with Lazaro or anything, but I like where he's coming from in terms of like, all right, it's not totally unreasonable to be upset with. Oh, there you go. I'm predicting that he had someone close to him die because of this starvation or something like that, and that's often what spurs the I gotta take them out. Like his mother or father died, the love of his life died, his child died, and that's what really pushed him to be part of that revolt.
Okay, I like that.
What
I
about
hadn't really
you?
thought about Lazaro in terms of predictions. My prediction is more about Zebulon. And we briefly mentioned this before, but I really want to get back to it. I definitely feel that Zebulon is not who she appears to be. I feel like she has a motive. She wants to keep power, get power for the first time. I don't know if like there's an age thing where like you stop being queen at a certain age. Because if you remember back,
too.
yeah. If you remember back, I wrote it down. Just at the scene where Aleta and Zebulon are in the hallway. Young Aleta, I think she's 10 or 12, something like that. She says something to the effect of to Aleta. They're complaining about the lack of food, and she tells Aleta that people don't see her as a queen, but as an incompetent child.
Yes,
and they blame her being Aleta, for their problems. I don't know. To me, that was like a. I'm going to plant the seed in your head so you relinquish this crown. So I think moving forward, Zebulon wants to find some way to regain power or something like that. I know she's going to play I think she's going to play a far bigger role in Aleta becoming queen again than we initially thought. So that's my prediction moving forward.
Nice. A comment which will lead to a prediction. We got Pascal Cake. Sorry if I said that wrong. We stand an emotionally nuanced queen. And I'll go with Aleta Queen, and which I know she's queen, but I'm hoping her relationship with Amae does go forward. I think it will take time. Probably it'll be more like the last half. But it's one of those, you don't want a relationship rushed, but you don't want to wait forever.
Yeah, I hope.
So we'll see. I hope that moves along a little bit more. And I kind of wonder if we're gonna get Isaac figuring out him getting home or something with his wife or child, or if there's a way to get a message or something. I'm curious. Yeah,
I agree.
So, all right, cool. Well, thank you so much for everybody who joined us live, had questions and comments. If you're watching this later, please comment down below, give the video a thumbs up and subscribe, and definitely tune in for next week. We hope to have more guests over the rest of the season. Tell your friends about the after show, because this is such a fun show to talk about. It's like Jem said, it's definitely, I see those influences, I'm digging it, and I'm really excited to see where the rest of the show goes. James, where can people find you online in the meantime?
So you can follow your boy at James Maple Actor on Twitter, on Instagram at Terrell James Maple, and also on Instagram, Masked Singer Fan Theories. I run the page there for AfterBuzz TV with all the predictions you need every week.
Nice. And actually, real quick, Vagrant Gifts, which thank you on Twitter. You've been great about following and retweeting stuff. Said, I'm pretty sure monarchies get passed down by bloodline. So Aleta's father was king, and so then Aleta becomes queen as the oldest child. I assume Zebulon is her mother, but not royal. Okay, I like that. That definitely makes sense. And Roland's Me says Vagrant Queen is awesome.
It's awesome.
And then go check out on Twitter Jem's page, and then for me on Twitter, you can find me online at Kari Lane. That's KARIDLANE. I will retweet the Make Gay Bar shirt and the Winnie Bot. They're great. Jordan did those on Twitter. They look so awesome and they're really fun. So again, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you all next week. Bye.
Our founder, Kevin Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.